You're watching Football Daily, and here's 10 times Football Manager predicted the future. 10. The -10 Club. In 2006, several wonder kids were rising to prominence in the world of football. During this time, a young Vincent Kompany came through at Anderlecht, Sergio Ramos got his big move to Real Madrid, Sergio Aguero and Radamel Falcao became well known across South America, and of course, a certain Lionel Messi started to make regular appearances for Barcelona. All of these names were known by the game to be the next big things in football, and as a result were given -10 potential in Football Manager's database. For those unfamiliar with how FM works, a player given a -10 potential means they would be randomly given a potential ability between 170 and 200 out of a score of 200 in each new game you loaded up. This rating gave all of the players I just mentioned a huge chance of becoming some of the world's best on the game. All have reached the heights FM predicted them to in real life. 9. The Real Dons. Football Manager has had a long and fruitful relationship with AFC Wimbledon. Sports Interactive have even sponsored the Dons since their formation in 2002, staying loyal throughout the club's 7-division climb, from the Combined Counties League to League One. At the start of the 2016-17 season, Football Manager ran a simulation which predicted a 13th place finish for AFC Wimbledon in their debut League One season, and they even predicted a 3-1 win over bitter rivals MK Dons in the first match between the sides at the club's Kingsmeadow home. As of March 2017, the Dons are on course to finish in 13th place exactly, and the result against Milton Keynes was a 2-0 Wimbledon victory. The Sidekicks at FM nearly got 2 for 2. Not bad at all. 8. The Metronome. Marco Verratti is one of Europe's most wanted players, and at the age of 24, still has his best days ahead of him. But guess who spotted the Italian midfielder's potential early on? Yep, it was FM. Verratti caught the eye at Pescara, where they even predicted his rise to stardom. According to the game, he was already a superstar in Football Manager 2010, which was released when Verratti was still just 16 and playing in the Italian third tier. That's nearly 3 years before his national team debut. And that's not their only success story in Italy, as they also spotted Antonio Cassano, Riccardo Montolivo and Gianpaolo Pizzini whilst they were still teenagers, and was also responsible for boosting the potential ability rating of Zlatan Ibrahimovic on the game, when many still had doubts about his quality. 7. The Manager's Son. Next we have the story of how Football Manager nearly changed footballing history. While he was the manager of Rangers, Alex McLeish was looking for young talent in the transfer market, when some advice came his way from an unlikely source. His son. John McLeish was a Football Manager fiend and prided himself on unearthing well-beating footballers on the game before they became a success in real life. One day he told his dad about one such player he'd signed in the game, and it was none other than Lionel Messi. John was convinced the Argentinian teenager was a superstar in the making and urged his dad to try and sign him. The Rangers manager though initially ignored his son's suggestions, but the club later made a move to sign Messi from Barcelona on loan. Yes, that did really happen. Unsurprisingly, they were turned down by Barca, and Messi went on to become one of the all-time greats of football, thankfully without having to endure being kicked the shit out of in the Old Firm derby. 6. The Flying Dutchman. Although you would struggle to argue he is on the level of Messi, Arjen Robben is undoubtedly one of the great attacking players of his generation. The evergreen forward has won league titles in 4 different countries and has played under the likes of Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, Pep Guardiola and even Carlo Ancelotti. Robben has been ripping defences apart for so many years now that it's difficult to remember him as a youngster, but the experts at Football Manager certainly do, as they predicted big things for the Dutchman when he was still playing for boyhood club Groningen as a 17-year-old. They gave him a flair rating of 19, which was nearly as high as Ronaldinho at the time, whilst his passing was actually rated higher than the Brazilian magicians. Premier League scouts eventually caught up with the game's intelligence, and a 20-year-old Robben was approached by Manchester United and Chelsea after making a name for himself at PSV Eindhoven. He opted for Stamford Bridge, and we all know how things went from there. 5. The Predictive Miracle. Now we all love a football fairy tale, and they don't come much sweeter than Leicester's unlikely march to the Premier League title in 2016. What made the miracle of the King Power all the more special was the fact that the Foxes had heroically escaped relegation the previous season, and you'll never guess who predicted that particular achievement. Yes, once again, it was Football Manager. In January 2015, FM ran a simulation for the rest of the Premier League season. Leicester was still rooted to the bottom of the table, and at that stage, favourites to go down, with a meagre 17 points. But somehow, the simulation predicted them to avoid relegation altogether. It took them a little while, but the Foxes eventually got their act together, winning 7 of their final 9 games, avoiding the drop and proving the analytics of Football Manager right. 4. Belgium's golden generation. Over the past 10 years, Belgium has produced some of the world's hottest talent, and while the national side has yet to produce the goods at major tournaments, their players have won huge amounts of silverware at club level. Football Manager has been hot on predicting the futures of the country's so-called golden generation, and along with aforementioned -10 club member Vincent Kompany, the likes of Thibaut Courtois and Kevin De Bruyne were stars on the game long before they hit the big time. Football Manager even improved Kompany's attributes after reading about a promising 15-year-old centre-back. They did the same for Courtois when the goalkeeper was just 16, after he made his debut for Genk against Ghent, and both players have gone on to replicate their fantastic FM stats in real life. 3. The Red Fury. So it's pretty clear that Football Manager has got it spot on with the world's greatest footballers, but surely it couldn't predict the outcome of a World Cup. Well, that's where you're wrong. Cast your minds back to 2010 and the World Cup in South Africa. Paul the Octopus became world famous after amazingly predicting that Spain would win the tournament, but FM got there way before. As described in his book Football Manager Stole My Life, Ian McIntosh simulated an old edition of the game, back when the Spanish national team were known for being a talented side, but one that were incapable of succeeding at major tournaments. However, FM was full of wisdom once again, correctly predicting that Spain would get their hands on the World Cup trophy in 2010. 2. The Late Bloomer. Back in the 1990s, a young Deco arrived in Portugal from Brazil, hoping to make his mark at Benfica, but he was instantly considered not good enough for the Lisbon Giants and was loaned out to second division side Alverca. Football Manager spotted the youngster during this time, and despite Deco's patchy form and skinny physique, they stuck with their man. FM were enchanted by the playmaker's technical ability and penned him as a future superstar on the game, following his move to Porto from Salgueiros, prompting outcries of bias from FM fans in Portugal. But they were proved right, as Deco went on to win the Champions League with Porto and Barcelona, as well as league titles in Portugal, Spain, England and Brazil. With a trophy haul to rival any player in world football, we think it's fair to say the boy came good. 1. The evolution of a fullback. Football Manager's biggest success story of recent years comes in the form of a Welsh wizard though. Gareth Bale had just come through the Southampton Academy as a left-back when FM made some grandstanding predictions for the 16-year-old all the way back in the 2007 edition of the game. He was tipped to push forward from his fullback position and become one of the world's best players. That's an insane shout given that he was still at Southampton. But once again, the experts at FM were proved right, as he was converted to a forward at Tottenham and became the best player in England, tearing through defences at ludicrous speeds in the Premier League and in Europe. 7 years after being a hotly anticipated youngster on the game, Bale earned himself a world record transfer to Real Madrid, where he now scores for fun alongside Cristiano Ronaldo. Oh, and he's also won 2 Champions Leagues. As part of Football Manager's free weekend, you can download the game for absolutely nothing from 5 PM today. There's a link on screen now and in the description, so make sure you go over and do that. And as ever, please do like and subscribe. Sayonara.